What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at SoundHound AI stock, ticker symbol SOUN, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Wednesday, March 6th. Alright guys, so SoundHound AI stock here today, down about 66 cents a share, 11.82% to the downside. This is a volatile name. However, it looks like we are getting caught up in some news today. We, of course, got news today that AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, they might need to secure a special export license before they can sell some of their processors in China. So we are seeing a little bit of drama in the AI, or more so the chip space. If we take a look at AMD, you see here that we did actually see some volatility early in the day, but we got kind of a pump, and it's actually up a little bit after hours. So we got a little bit of a recovery out of AMD itself. But, SoundHound didn't really see quite as much of that. I mean, we got a little bit, but it was not kind of a sad attempt at a close. So let's take a look. Sometimes stocks just get caught up here and you get kind of an unfair shake as far as how the market reacts to the news, even if it's not business specific. Like in this case here today, you had AMD, recover kind of nicely, and SoundHound just wasn't really picked up. And the market, I think I lose a lot of people when I say this, as far as like they don't really understand what I'm talking about. But what I mean is the market is efficient, but sometimes it takes time to realize that efficiency. That's why there's a lot of kind of arbitrage plays in the market. But I remember saying a very similar thing about AMD stock itself in the depths of the bear market. It was like, this thing's worth more than this. The value's going to get recognized eventually, yet it just got beat up every single day, day after day, and it was actually rather infuriating. However, the value, of course, always ends up getting recognized in the end, which now, of course, AMD essentially at all-time highs has been the case. But let's take a look here at SoundHound stock today. What I want to do is try to pull as much bias as we can out of the market and take a look at levels that I'm watching here come tomorrow, because this one is absolutely one to watch here in the near term because it's moving. Let's start with our daily ritual, our volume profile analysis here on the 5-minute chart. And by the way, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. I'll continue to do my best to provide you value every single day here for free. But if you're not new here, what we're looking for on the 5-minute, on the volume profile analysis. What I want is, I want to see big changes in volume that are not contextual to that particular time of day, that also correlate with obvious moves in the price of the stock, okay? So here on SoundHound today, I'm kind of really looking at this initial fade that we got off the open, and then how that compares to any recovery bounces that we did see. And, truthfully, the fade itself was so choppy. We had so many green candles mixed in, it was not really all that clean of a move, all things considered. Now, as far as scalping is concerned, I'm sure we saw some scalpers scalping off that 9 EMA. I personally wasn't watching that for an in-play name. I was distracted with stocks that provided me better edge. But truthfully, guys, the volume here is almost more choppy than the actual move. We expect big volume off the open. That's not unexpected. Okay, that is contextual. About 5 million shares off the open there. That's fine. But while we're doing this volume analysis, I'm usually looking for kind of consistently higher than what is contextual volume on usually at least 3 or 4 consecutive bars. I mean, here we have 2. And then you have evenly sized red bars as far as, candles are concerned that are on much lower volume. You have green candles that randomly pop up, red candles that randomly have lower volume. Honestly, this is not contextual enough at all to declare a bear's victory on that downside move. It's just way too choppy. Now, of course, the bears kind of won the day. The stock's down 11.82% just based on movement. Okay, but as far as when we dig a little deeper and peel back the layers, the volume profile does not really tell such an obvious story in the same way at all. So that being the case here, let's move on and start looking at levels that I'm paying attention to as we head into tomorrow, Wednesday's trading day. And let's start by doing that on the 30-minute chart with the very obvious self-fulfilling prophecy, 50-period moving average and the 200-period moving average. That 50-period, of course, sitting right now at about $5.30 a share, that white line. Now, if you guys caught yesterday's video here on the name, we were talking about how ideally I would have loved to see a reclaim of one, if not both, of these moving averages. I mean, all they are self-fulfilling prophecies, but they're psychological levels nonetheless, and I'd prefer to see a reclaim. Of course, we weren't able to do that here today. The 50 period did also fade downside along with the stock. The 50 period is expected to do that on the 30 minute because it's the quickest moving of all the moving averages we're going to take a look at here today. But that quick move can also act as a benefit. For example, ideally tomorrow, from a bullish perspective, I would love to see the stock move upside, of course, but reclaim that 50 period, retest it, and then on high volume, as much volume as possible, pull upside away and yank that 50 period back into an ascending position, which could kind of give us a little bit of a added boost to potentially make our way up for eventually a potential test of that 200 period here on the 30-minute chart. Bears, if you're bearish on the name, and bulls, this is kind of like the opposite of what you'd like to see, at least in my opinion. You'd prefer to see a downside fade, of course, of the stock, which we'll talk about the round number once we get to the daily chart, but a continuation downside on the 50 period as well to continue to add that psychological barrier, getting lower and lower in terms of stock price, right? Just one factor of many, but you'd like as many in your favor as possible, both bulls and bears. So let's move on here now to the 4-hour chart and take a look. You can see this one's incredibly in play here as we head into tomorrow. So since yesterday, we did give up that 50 period here on the 4-hour chart. Now bulls, here's what we're looking for. I just want to see that undone, and I would love to see a reclaim of that 50 period here on the 4-hour chart. That is approximately a 7.3% move away. However, we've seen much crazier things out of SoundHound stock as of late. So just a nice clean reclaim of that would be a great thing to see here from a bullish perspective on the 4-hour chart. But if you are a bear, you know, again, it's 7% against your position. You would ideally just prefer to see this continue downside and get this 50 period curling over to follow the name. But if we do see a retest of that 50 period on the 4-hour chart and you are bearish on the stock, ideally you'd like to see a hard, high volume rejection, no doubt about it, away from that level and fade hard away from that 50 period as quickly as possible. That's if you're bearish, of course. Now, on to the most important chart of all, and that's going to be the incredibly contextual, incredibly psychological daily chart. This one paints the most obvious picture possible, and here's the obvious story. Ideally, I would have loved to see 550 hold from a bullish perspective. That's what we talked about in yesterday's video. We now find ourselves right around the level of $5 a share. Okay, bulls, we have one goal tomorrow. We closed just barely below $5. I'm kind of seeing this as like a test of 5, really, because I'm more of like a multi-trading day kind of guy as far as big levels like this on the daily. A hold of $5 a share is the ideal scenario for a bull. Even more so than that, a high volume bounce back up toward 550, if not, 6. That would, of course, be a big move, though. Bears, holding below $5 a share is your only priority tomorrow. Ideally, you would love the stock to go lower, but if you're a bear, a close tomorrow at 490, I think you could probably consider that a very short-term win because you're not giving back $5 a share, and 5 is a huge psychological level. So bulls, I think it's kind of like go time these next few days. Gonna want to hold $5 a share ideally. Listen, if whatever your sentiment is, if the opposite thing happens, would I say it's the end of the world? It never necessarily is because we're so short term, we're so zoomed in, but in the zoomed in context, gonna want to hold $5 here if we're bulls, gonna want to stay below $5 a share in the near term here if we are bears. And speaking of time frame, by the way, let me know in the comment section here while you're listening to the end of the video while we go over options. Let me know, what's your time frame on this name? I got some great responses yesterday. Are you trading the stock or are you in this for the long term? And while you're doing that, I appreciate that. I'll read all the comments here tonight. Let's take a look at the bias that was in the options chain today. I'll be sure to explain well here. So we had 122,000 total contracts traded. Okay, that's a decent sample size. Not the most we've seen out of this stock, but still enough volume to get some good data. Of that 122K total, we had 78,352 calls, and we had 43,751 puts. So we are seeing a call side bias here on SoundHound stock today, even with the stock down 11.82% in regular hours. Now, if we break this down by time frame here, first of all, every single delta range already is leaning call bias to varying degrees, yes. but call bias nonetheless on all 5 delta ranges. But the one that I'm most interested in is that 0 to 20 delta range, those far out of the money gambly style short-term speculation calls and puts, because this is a video geared at, mostly toward Wednesday's trading day. It's a shorter term analysis here. So I want that shorter term speculation bias. We have 22,830 calls in that range and 6,776 puts. So, the volume is not out of this world high. So we have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt with the volume being a little lower, but that's a heavy, short-term speculation call side bias nonetheless. And again, a somewhat heavy overall call side bias on the overall call per ratio. Listen, if you got value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, and I'll see you tomorrow.